Hello, beautiful people. Wow, I actually want to share this video, but I have no idea how. It didn't quite work out how I thought it was going to start it. So, yeah. Wow, okay. I'm just talking to myself, aren't I? I should really just talk to you. Let's not even worry about the sharing thing. If you find me, you find me. And if you don't, I'll share it later. So, I'm Lisa Murray from Creative Alchemy, and I thought I might have a little convo today, being the end of the weekend, with you about, is it time to create your future? Now, this is a really interesting thing because we kind of wait for something to happen. Like, have you ever said, oh, I'll do that, but after such and such has happened, or yeah, I'll choose that, but only if this happens. And there's always this kind of really strange waiting thing that goes on where you're always putting an obstacle in front of your choice. And I thought we might talk a little bit about the choices that you do have today and what that might look like in real life. So one of the really great stories we tell ourselves for oh yeah, I'm going to create my future in the future, is the whole idea of I've got the perfect right life. And a lot of people have this. Well, oh no, my life's fine. I don't need to create it. I don't need to do anything. I've got this really great life. And what I notice about that a lot of the time is, yeah, they do. They have this really great life on the surface, but it's not necessarily great underneath. And so when you have that going on in your world, when you're going, yeah, my life's really great, have you ever wondered what it would be like to create something even greater? Because it's like this thing of, it's very easy to settle for average, okay? It's very easy to settle for whatever it is that seems great on the surface. But is it really the life that if you could choose anything, you would choose? And if it's not, are you going to start creating that life sooner rather than later? So that's the first thing. The second thing is this question of, because one of the things is that instead of creating our future, we compare what we've got to and what our life is like to others, and we come up a little short, and it's paralyzing because we're like, oh gosh, I'd love to create my future, but they've got all this and I don't even know. I'm back here and I can't do this and I can't do that. And we go into this really sort of paralyzing set of thought patterns where we don't end up creating anything or anything different to what we've got right now. And this, I think, I've seen this over and over with people where it's what I call comparison paralysis. And what would it be like if you just stopped comparing your life with other people's? What would it be like if you started looking at, well, what would I really like to have? What is it that would really make you happy without even considering how other people live their lives? Because what I see is this society that we live in where everyone is busy comparing their life to everyone else's to see if it's better or worse. And sometimes coming to that conclusion of, oh yeah, I've got the perfect right life, that kind of thing. And literally there's this thing where it's all just comparison. And comparison doesn't create, actually. Comparison just makes you feel bad about yourself. And so one of the big things I've looked at with creating my future is, well, if I wasn't comparing my life to anyone else's life, what would I choose? And sometimes you have to forge a path. Sometimes you actually have to find the courage to choose things that other people haven't even considered, or that they haven't considered are possible, or that they don't even want to know about because it's not in their world. It's not in their comfort zones. But for you, it would be the perfect thing. And this is where you can't make yourself wrong for whatever it is you'd like to choose as your life, as your future, because you're unique in the entire world. And there are things that if you chose them would actually allow other people to choose them as well. Now one of those things for me actually is, it's this thing about showing people how to live beyond burnout. Because for years and years and years, that's what I've been doing. Like, I've had burnout really badly 3 times in my life, and another probably 2 or 3 times that weren't so bad, but they were definitely on the edge. And for years and years, I've resisted even talking about that, because for me, it was like, well, I'm over it and I don't want to think about it anymore. But the reality is, a lot of stuff that I've done over these last few years has literally been about out-creating that burnout and creating a totally different future for myself so that I would never have burnout again. Now, is that useful for other people in the world? Yes. And I've come to it through living my life in a totally different way to maybe what's considered normal. And so this is the possibility that's available to you when you start to create the future that you can have without comparing yourself to other people. So maybe that would be fun for you. And if it is, and if you'd like to look at, well, how can this work for me? How can I create the future that I would like to create? Then I'll put a link in the chat that's really just to have a conversation with me about whether you would like to join a mastermind that I'm going to run about creating your future. Because when we create our future, it creates magic throughout our entire life. And when we're just, sitting on the edge watching other people create the future and then trying to fit into their future, it creates a really crappy life, actually. I wonder if you've noticed. So, and maybe that leads me to the third thing I wanted to talk about today, which is, and hi for everyone who's listening, feel free to write in the chat if you've got any questions. So the third thing that I thought I might talk about today is that, is it time to create your future when you know you're stuck, but you're actually not letting everything fall apart? And I think we've all done this at different times. There's this thing where you know that you're in a holding pattern, you're stuck, there's nothing moving, okay? And yet at the same time, you have got your little control freak hat on, and you're not letting anything change, anything fall apart, anything break open. You're just there going, no, I'm going to keep it all together. I'm going to keep it all together, and not actually allowing that kind of catalyst or that trigger point to boom everything so that it changes. And, please don't make yourself wrong for being in that space, because we've all done it. And what I see at the moment is that there's a really great choice available to you right now where you go, you know what, I'm going to put my courage boots on. I'm going to actually try out some new things. I'm going to do some different things. I'm going to allow the things that aren't working to fall apart, throw them up in the air and let them just land however they can and see what I would like to create from there. And when you make that choice, it's like the universe moves with you, and all of a sudden, all these other choices become available that weren't there while you were holding everything together. And I'm really grateful for this particular idea, because a friend of mine earlier in the year basically said, let things fall apart. And he was really intense with me at the time. And I was like, oh, let things fall apart, of course, because I've always been a person who fixed everything. And if you're a really good fixer, you never let anything fall apart, You're always like, no, I'll fix it. I'll sort it out. But actually and I did let some things fall apart just to see what would happen, because I was like, okay, that's something I've never done. That is something different than what I've ever done before. What's it going to be like if I actually let things fall apart? And the magic of that has been in letting all these different things fall apart. It hasn't become this crazy disaster zone. Actually, what happened was I got a lot more nurturing and nourishment for myself. And I also have found some ways forward that are exactly what I need to be creating with a lot less effort than I normally make. And it's really interesting because it doesn't mean that everything shows up exactly as you desire it. Like there's some things that haven't come to fruition how I would have liked. And yet I can see the gift in that, because I've actually received things that are greater, that are actually taking me further forward than what I ever could have imagined. So this is where creating your future doesn't always look like what you imagine. It doesn't always show up in this perfectly linear, logical kind of way, but it does give you exactly what you're seeking and what you're truly asking for. And so, if this is interesting to you, if you'd like to explore these things some more, if you'd like to put that kind of wedgie in your own world and allow a different future to evolve, then come join me in the Creating Your Future Mastermind. I know it's going to be very magical. I'm only putting a maximum of 6 people into each mastermind, and I don't actually know how many I'm going to do. It just depends on who shows up and where all the people are at and what they would like to play with, because I will form the groups in such a way as to make the groups a real contribution for each other, because I do believe that we're in this together. You don't have to go it alone. You don't have to be the Lone Ranger sitting out there creating your future by yourself and getting everything perfect before you invite anyone else into your world. So the whole idea of the masterminds is that we will create some magic together. And I'm pretty excited to see what that can actually look like. So if it's fun, I will throw the link in the chat and you can explore from there. Have a little chat with me privately and see if it is for you. And if it's not, maybe just what we've talked about today is a really good starting place for you. So have a really beautiful Sunday. Or, yeah, I think for most people it's Sunday. You know, the time thing gets very confusing sometimes. Anyway, have an adventure. Have a beautiful day, evening, whatever it is for you. And do something different, because that is the start of creating your future. All right, I'm Lisa Murray. It's been beautiful talking with you tonight, and I hope you're enjoying the magic of your life. See you later.